Hello, this is Niswander, and you're watching the Nowman Show. Shannon Rivers is a member of the Akimel O'otham. Is that right? Did I say that
Pretty
right?
close.
River people,
Right.
born and raised on the Gila River Indian Reservation located in Arizona. Since 2004, he has been a participant and a former delegate at the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues held at the UN in New York City. In 2008, Mr. Rivers co-chaired the Global Indigenous Peoples Caucus for 2 consecutive years and has conducted and hosted lectures on the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples at the state capital of Arizona, Arizona State University, and at numerous local colleges in Arizona and California. Shannon has participated in political and social justice actions in North, Central, and South America. During his time as co-chair, Shannon was also instrumental in assisting the implementation of the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Shannon is a board member for Divest LA, a local grassroots movement coalition with a revolutionary vision, which we will be getting into. Currently, Mr. Rivers is a Native American traditional cultural advisor to indigenous inmate populations at county, state, and federal prisons and jails in Arizona. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree from Northern Arizona University and will be receiving his master's in American Indian Studies from the University of California, Los Angeles.
Go UCLA.
UCLA.
That's right.
Thank you, Shannon, for being on the Nowman Show.
That's the show, right? I mean, we're done. That's a lot of stuff.
That's a lot of stuff. You've done a lot of stuff. You're doing a lot of stuff, and that's amazing. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I mean, it's time that we have more and more of these kinds of discussions.
I agree.
First of all, you were a delegate
Right.
at the UN. I've been a media ambassador for a UN program.
Okay.
What did you do exactly as a delegate?
So it goes back to 9/11, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when 9/11 happened, the closure of the U.S. Southern border in Arizona started to get more militarized. It was Bush at the time who said we need to secure our borders, as you kind of see the same political rhetoric going on today. For some reason, the United States in their political positioning believed that these individuals who flew planes into these Twin Towers were coming through the southern border.
Yeah.
Reality that's never happened. But
Right.
So the militarization of the O'otham border, the Tohono O'otham border, our traditional people don't recognize those borders, but there is a small little fence there that the Border Patrol started to increase their presence. The elders were concerned about what is our role and what kind of responsibilities do we have. And moreover, they wanted to know, do we still have, not asking anyone, we believe that we had the freedom to cross this border, this U.S.-Mexico border. But they needed to know a little bit more about the policies of what was happening and the militarization of the border. And the only place that we felt that at the time that the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues was the place to go. So I, along with several other folks, went there. I went there for a few years. I stopped going, then I went back because I felt that the policies within the UN system, of course, all these member states that are within the UN,
Right.
If we know anything about the UN, the United States is the largest financial contributor to the UN. So there's a lot of muscle that takes place. There's a lot of pushing, political shoving that goes on by the U.S. But nevertheless, we felt that the Permanent Forum was a place to voice our concerns about the militarization, about the treatment that the indigenous peoples were facing, not just the O'otham people in the south, but you got the Kumeyaay and the Lipan Apache. You got at least several other tribes.
In Arizona.
And not just Arizona, but you're talking California
Right.
and through Texas and
yeah.
a little bit of New Mexico. But so you have these states where they're butting up against the border. Indigenous peoples felt like we needed to have our voice be heard there. So we went. I was nominated in 2008, And it was soon after the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples was passed by the General Assembly. The General Assembly voted on this declaration. There were 4 countries that did not. United States, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And you ask yourself, okay, here are these countries that are touting this human rights around the world, but not supporting the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. So
why is that? I mean, because they have, there's the Aboriginal populations, there's the First Nation
Australia,
populations
right,
in these
New
4
Zealand,
countries.
Right, the major populations. We believed, and from what we gather today, is that, and I was telling one of your assistants out there that indigenous peoples, there are, according to the United Nations, there are 380 million indigenous peoples left in the world.
Wow.
And about 60 to 70% of those that are maintaining these, where they live, these areas are some of the most pristine water systems, the most beautiful ecosystems in the world. You're talking forest, you're talking landscapes that have been untouched, but within the U.S., and we'll get to Standing Rock here a little later. But in the U.S., we see indigenous peoples on reservations throughout the U.S., mainly on this side of the Mississippi. But some of these areas are still untouched, if you will, by colonization, by progress, by capitalism. So they're untouched. But it was interesting to note that these 4 countries did not sign that. Obama later, when he came into office, lent his support to the declaration. But as we can see, again, about Standing Rock and Bears Ears and many other violations that go on in indigenous communities, policies or treaty rights have not ever been honored by this government, by the United States.
And that's an ongoing issue. It's going into the 21st century.
Right. So, I mean, we stopped, I think the last treaty was in 1876, I believe, with the Lakota, the Fort Laramie Treaty. It was one of the last treaties, I should say. But no, none of these treaties. There are over, I believe, an organization counted how many treaties that the United States signed. There was over 400, and none have been obligated. They violate every one of those treaties.
Oh, wow.
Continue today, yeah.
So now you also worked with different tribes for them to adopt the declaration?
So the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples was put forth 15 years before that movement. And this is the 3rd draft of the declaration.
Is this based on the Universal Declaration of
Universal
Human Rights?
Declaration on Human Rights.
That was 1948.
1948.
We got that because of Eleanor Roosevelt. You know?
You're damn right you did. However, when it comes to indigenous rights, that's a whole different set of circumstances. Because basically what happens is a country will come in and say, well, yeah, we have indigenous peoples, but they're part of the larger society. In reality, we're not. Native people, even though I speak English and drive my car around or whatever, we are a unique, distinct people in a country that has, from manifest destiny, from the from the doctrines of discovery to manifest destiny, our rights have been violated every step of the way. We do not have. We may be on reservations, but that is federally owned land. So yeah, I mean, these indigenous peoples from all over the world came together at the United Nations to push forward this declaration. Now, granted, there was a lot of compromise because this is the third declaration or the 3rd draft, which was finally passed. A lot of folks didn't like it.
And you mean folks in the Native American community?
In the indigenous communities throughout the world, right? And not just North America, indigenous
globally.
Globally, people were uncomfortable with it because it felt like it was too. We were compromising on a lot of things. And moreover, we felt that we were asking permission from an oppressor who never really gives us rights anyway. So these are things that were very contentious within the groups, with the indigenous groups at the UN. But it passed. 47 member states signed it, and again, the 4 that didn't. Later on, Canada and New Zealand and the United States and Australia used some softer language to say that they would support it in some way. But still, violations go on throughout Australia and New Zealand. You've seen here in the United States with what happened at the large gathering in Standing Rock.
Right. I know, exactly. And what, okay, going and look, let's go look now at Divest LA. Exactly, I know they were there at Standing Rock.
Right.
Obviously, first of all, for those people who may not know, what is the genuine purpose of Divest LA? What is their work? What is it focused on?
So
is it connected to a larger movement?
Right. There's Divest LA and Revolution LA, and I don't really want to speak to Revolution LA, but I'll speak to Divest LA. When Standing Rock took place, organizations and people, just like you and I, were waking up to what was happening environmentally, politically, to these oligarchs here in the U.S. who felt these pipeline tycoons who could destroy the tar sands, and create tar sands in Canada, and just drop these pipelines anywhere they felt. And it was LaDonna, she's a member of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, who made a call out to people to come to the camp, to Oshetchishikoan, to Sacred Stone Camp. And people came by the thousands.
Thousands, yes,
and
exactly.
By the end of the gathering, they estimated about 10,000 people. So what it did was it woke up people, this consciousness that I think we're all seeing, from climate change to environmental disasters throughout the world, to economic inequality, to poverty that we see, homelessness here in Los Angeles, the largest state or city with homelessness.
Yeah.
I think people kind of woke up. And so members of Divest LA went, they came back, Trinity Tran and Phoenix, couple of the main organizers, and a few more, who decided and said, you know, we got to try to do something. Well, the target of their initial movement was Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo Bank was one of the largest contributors to the Dakota Access Pipeline. It was a financial supporter of that pipeline. So why not attack the bank? So we know the history with Wells Fargo, with their lending practice and
the foreclosures,
and attacking and pretty much targeting people of color, black and brown communities here in Los Angeles and throughout the country. So Divest LA said, let's go after Wells Fargo within the city of Los Angeles. Okay, we started that process. We went to the city council, started to make this motion from Paul Kretz and Mitch O'Farrell, who introduced the motion to initially to determine whether or not, of the 800 contracts that the city of Los Angeles has with Wells Fargo, could they remove the $40 million? But there's more money. There's $8 billion.
Yeah.
So they went after Wells Fargo. We were doing protests and marches in the street, large gatherings in the street. We would shut down banks. You're not just talking Wells Fargo's, you're talking Chase, you're talking
Bank of America, Citigroup.
So we're shutting down these banks, and then it started to explode from Seattle to San Francisco, different parts of the country. People were getting arrested shutting down banks.
Yeah.
Specifically Wells Fargo here in Los Angeles. Divest LA made that move, asked me to join with an indigenous voice to help and support them. We brought the indigenous community in. It was literally just a group of 10 people or less who started to make that move to the city of Los Angeles to get these councilmen and council members of the city of Los Angeles to recognize that Wells Fargo has been violating not only people of color, not just the Dakota Access Pipeline, but their relationship. It goes back to the killing of and taking, giving bounty to people who were killing Native people, Native Californians here in California in the 1800s.
That's right, because Wells Fargo has been around since the 19th century.
That's correct.
That's right.
So, and
they have a history. I mean, many people learned in 2011 with Occupy Los Angeles what Wells Fargo was doing, particularly in South Central Los Angeles, foreclosing on people and swindling them with these mortgage deals, that were based on stocks that nobody really even knew what they were to begin with.
No.
And that's a whole other story we've covered on this show, with Bill Clinton.
Okay.
The Commodity Future Modernization Act, which is what started all that, recreating the same kind of problem we had in the 20s.
Yes.
But now it's just expanded. It's out of control. It's
out of
another
control.
bubble, because right here in this community, one of the biggest culprits countrywide, their office was at the corner of Lake and Colorado Boulevard down here.
The housing crisis.
And Angel Mazzillo, I very rarely mention people's names, but when they're criminals,
you don't have a problem with
I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
And the guy is still in business.
I can name a lot of names.
But the thing about it is that nobody was put in prison. Nobody was. There weren't even court cases.
No.
So, what is developing in this country is a lot of animosity, a lot of. It's going to create not only a mortgage bubble, but people they're going to be in the streets again. Something's going to happen. I mean, something's got to give.
I hope so. I hope people do wake up. Right.
Yeah. So it's now going to the Dakota Access Pipeline issue, and of course we've seen Keystone XL pipeline. Supposedly, the land was saved, right? But now they're going to reroute the pipeline. So what's the point? I mean, you know what I mean? It's like,
so you have Bismarck, North Dakota, right?
Right.
Where the pipeline was originally to go on top of the city, if you will, or north of the city.
Yeah.
But then they diverted it down to the southern route, which touched and impacted the Lakota, Nakota, and Dakota treaty rights. So that in itself was labeled environmental racism.
Right, exactly.
Targeting people of color once again. We knew that the pipeline was going to burst. We knew that putting it in the ground doesn't matter where you're at. You can be anywhere. These pipelines, they will burst. And sure enough, it happened. Not even a few months after.
That's right.
400,000 gallons, or maybe even more. No one really knows. They keep this stuff under wraps a lot of times. But what you saw in Standing Rock was indigenous peoples and people of all faiths and all colors. You had famous people. You had famous civil rights folks. Jesse Jackson went. You had
Jill Stein was there.
Jill Stein was there. Actors who went up and some musicians who went up. And people were waking up, and what you saw was the violent state oppression of people who stand up for water who stand up for earth. And so the question is, if these peoples didn't come, the support that we got, if they didn't come, what would happen to these indigenous peoples?
That's right.
Typically what happens is indigenous peoples end up in jail. They get incarcerated by higher rates than anybody else in the United States. We are a small population, and we are trying to maintain our cultures and traditions and ceremonies.
Absolutely.
And so you have this violent history in the United States, again, with Manifest Destiny, specifically here in the U.S.
We need to create coalitions. We need to bring people together. And like the Margaret Mead quote, it doesn't take a lot of people, but it does take a significant number of people who realize that they can make a difference. We need to start doing that, create coalitions that move these solutions forward, because they exist.
Right.
We need to get people in a more cooperative mindset, create businesses together, stand up together, support one another, share the resources, put pressure on the establishment to say, no, we are the majority.
Right.
How do we do that? and so in a closing statement, let's wrap it up with that.
How do we do that? I think one of the things is that if you look at, and you brought an indigenous guy on the show, so I'm coming from an indigenous perspective. If we look at how indigenous peoples live around the world, they're sharing resources, they're taking care of those resources, they're not overfishing, they're not over chopping, that's a lifestyle that is totally out of balance with who we are when it comes to our indigenous worldview. I'm not saying that our white brothers or our African American brothers or our Mexican brothers can turn to that. I believe that we slowly, though, have to look at the blueprint and the way of indigenous peoples live.
I agree.
Because if we do, then this world will be a better place. We can have a better relationship with one another. But what you saw happening today with, dropping bombs in Syria,
Yes.
where innocent people are being killed, Afghanistan, all throughout the Middle East, the turmoil, anyway.
I have a feeling we could be at a crossroads right now, where if we don't start acting radically in a lot of different ways, it's going to be disastrous. I mean, I don't like to make predictions like that because I know solutions exist and we can make them happen together. And I'm going to keep asking you